Audrey Williams is a principal at Al-Amal School in Fridley. She's been a teacher and principal for 30 years working at different Islamic schools. And this is her story.
How are you? I was going to talk to you in Arabic, so I am so used to talking in Arabic at school that I am going to say things that you go, what did you just say? So I was going to say, Assalamu alaikum. And Assalamu alaikum is, peace be upon you. So I'm offering you peace on this very cold night. Now, if I look back, and I am retirement age, actually this year I will retire as principal of the school in June. And this has probably been a wind ride and a very good thing for me. I never thought, 60 years ago I would be a principal at an Islamic school, or I would even be a Muslim. Actually, I probably didn't even know what that was. I grew up in Massachusetts, so another cold state, although maybe not as cold as Minnesota. But I embrace the cold, so my mother thinks I'm crazy, but I grew up in cold and a lot of snow, so I'm not quite sure why she thinks I'm crazy, because she's in it too. But I think she looks at my temperatures, and she always frets when anything happens in Minnesota. So I grew up on a farm in western Massachusetts, a dairy farm. My dad started working at grade 8 on his mother's and father's dairy farm because his father left with 17 children at my grandmother's. So he had to quit school, and so it was kind of a poor family, but a very strong family unit. And I think probably I should thank my parents for that. I really truly believe that if you have a strong family unit, you will survive anything. And because I think my grandfather left, it did make the siblings all have to take care of each other. Of course, when you have 17 kids, and I'm not sure if anyone here has, it's very difficult for one person to take care of 17 children. So there was a lot of mothers, and I experienced that when I was a child too, because I was the oldest of 5, and I had 2 cousins that lived with us too, so there were 7 children. And so I was the oldest, so I had to lose on all the board games because I was oldest and I could accept it more. Also, I could help my mom. She went to work. My dad was a poor farmer, and so she went to work in a foundry. I took care of my younger siblings, and so I was called, which I hate, but I was called the little mother. And maybe some of you have already experienced that. So I really took charge of my siblings. I was born in 1951, and it was a good time for my family. We were actually a very strong family unit. We came from a very religious family. And I have to tell you this, and I just asked my mother recently why this happened. We lived in a small town of 700 people. In my class, all through elementary school, there was 5 kids. 4 girls and 1 boy. That poor guy. He had to deal with all of us young women. But one of the things growing up in a small town, it was very community-like. They had 2 churches, and I never understood that. And my mother went to both. And we did not miss a Sunday at church. We did not miss a Christmas party. We did not miss an Easter party. We did what we were supposed to do. And that kind of instilled, the religious side of what our family was going through and the strong family unit that we had. I just asked her recently. First, we went to the Unitarian church at the top of the hill. It was the biggest church in town. Then we went to the smaller church, and I really didn't know when we were going to do either. The smaller church was congregational. So they were different denominations, but we went to both. I didn't see much of a difference, but it was nice just to be around community. I liked the bigger church better because they had an outhouse. And I don't know, it just intrigued me. And they had this big organ with tubes that went up a whole wall and I just was amazed. And I could sit there and listen to them forever. So it was really nice. Also, it echoed in the building, in the church, which was nice. So I had 5 siblings of my own. I was the oldest. I have a sister and 3 brothers. We had 2 cousin boys that lived with us too. Their mothers had health issues, and so my dad was the one that took care of everyone. So I had more than 3 brothers. I had 5, counting my cousins. We came from big families. We had, my mom's side had 11 children, and my dad's side had 17. So I had amazing 8 cousins, exactly my age. So we had our own cousins club. So it was nice. My life has revolved around family, and it's the best way to be brought up. So we lived in Warwick, Massachusetts, and as I was growing up, going to a very small elementary, I went to a regional school when I got into 7th grade. And what a shock. I had 36 classmates in my 7th grade class. I had never had more than 5. And that wasn't the whole class of 7th grade. There was 4 sections of 7th grade. So I was very overwhelmed. And I realized that not everybody were farmers. I was probably very naive. But it was still a good experience. I grew a lot during middle and high school. I was always very smart, and my brothers, I can remember saying, I don't know why we have to go to the same school as you have to go. You know, and I said, what's the problem? We have great teachers, because once you're in a small town, you have the same teachers forever. And you share the same teachers forever. And my 2 brothers younger than me are just 2 years apart. So they were close to me. So they got to have all the teachers that I had. And my brother Stephen said, I'm really sick and tired of Mrs. Bassett saying, how come you're not like your sister? How come you're not doing your work? How come you're not quiet? So he hated school because of that. But, he has, I'm amazed at the different paths that we've all taken. All of my brothers did go into farming in one way or the other. One was a farrower, a horseshoer. He was a horseshoer until I think probably 2 years ago he retired. The horses and cows were getting the best of him. He's a very big man, tall man. And I guess all of the gravity was hard on his body. So he did retire from that. By the way, I'm the only sibling that has not retired yet. And I really don't think that's fair. But anyway, it's coming, inshallah. By the way, inshallah, I just used a Arabic word. Inshallah means God wills, whatever God wills. Okay. So we grew up in a very strong, valued family. We had loving parents. There was nothing that they discouraged us on other than having, making sure that our lives were for God, and to have, compassion and respect and love for humanity. And I think that's probably one of the biggest gifts they could have given me. A little bit confusing about why we had to change church every once in a while, but it was good. I mean, I got to meet much of the community, and it was a strong community and one that bonded really well. So I went to regional school and high school, participated in band. I loved playing clarinet and saxophone. Did that throughout my high school career. Also, I ran track at the time. Now, for me, that was amazing, and it's something I didn't tell you about my childhood. When I was 2.5, I had the polio virus, and I have atrophy, especially in my left arm, and I have a little bit of weakness in my leg muscles. So running track, and it was distance. I'm very good endurance-wise, so I can run distances. I asked the doctor, not recently, but a couple of years ago, how come I could do that if my leg muscles are weak or weaker? He said, well, you don't understand. What you've done is you had nerve damage too. And so when everybody else is in pain because they ran too far, I didn't have that pain. So it's a blessing, but it isn't, because that means I'm aging faster. But that's okay. Mine was a general education in high school, and my intention was to go to college. Because I did have polio, there were a lot of opportunities for a young woman that was handicapped to go to school. And so I did enter community college, and I was going into nursing. Although, you know, we're here about education, I always used to set my brothers up and my sister up and my cousins up in the living room in rows of chairs, and I was the teacher. I was the only teacher. Never did I let anyone else be a teacher. And I got them very carefully on my side to set up the chairs. And it was fine up until that point. But when they saw me getting the paper and pencils out and knowing that I was going to give them math problems, I lost them. But that was my wish at that time. But I did decide to go into nursing because I had been in the hospital, had corrective surgery a lot of times because of the polio. I do have a cousin who also is 6 years older than me, and she has been in an iron lung for many years. She's she's completely paralyzed. And I thought it would be nice to help people health-wise. So I did enter a nursing program, spent a year, but then they asked me a question. And this question, I didn't get it. It did bother me a lot, actually, because my parents always told me if there was something you wanted to do, you could always do it. And I'll give you an example. I always wanted to jump rope. And my dad says, you jump rope. You and your brothers and your sister have fun twirling the rope and jumping. No, I want to jump rope by myself. My left arm doesn't work right. It doesn't twirl. I have the ball and joint is no longer a ball and joint, it's a solid bone, so it doesn't move like this. And he said, Audrey, think about it, just think about it. There's probably a way you could jump rope by yourself. And all he did was look at the doorknob. And I thought, I could tie the rope to the doorknob and only twirl it with my right arm. And it worked. I could jump rope. So it really made me, growing up, knowing that I could do whatever I needed to do. It might not look the same, but it was something that they instilled in me, that don't give up. There's a way to do it. It might not be like everyone else, but you'll have success. So that really helped me. My parents are exceptional people. They're still living. They're almost 90 now, and they live in their own house still. I'm hoping that I have their longevity. I do have their genes. They do not look 90, and they're all pretty healthy for almost 90-year-olds. My dad was out shoveling the walks in the driveway the other day, and I said, Dad, that's not a good thing. He said, Audrey, if God takes me, I'm ready. So don't tell me it's not a good thing. So it's just kind of a neat thing to grow up, knowing that he has that strength to accept what comes, and it doesn't hold him back. My parents were also very compassionate people for people. They were always helping people. My mother used to take dolls from thrift stores where the hair was all matted, or some little girl decided to cut the doll's hair so it would grow back longer. And of course, doll hairs don't grow longer anymore. Or there's this big bald spot in it where they picked all the hair off. My mother would get dolls like that with, the ink all over its face that somebody wrote on it. She'd clean the dolls up, make doll clothes, and she would sew a little hat on their head, or make a little bonnet, and she would give it away. And that was my mom. She still makes doll clothes. When she can't sleep, she's up at the sewing machine making doll clothes. And she gives them to the guild, and that's important for her. Please tell me when my time is up. I can talk all night. My parents, because they both were not very educated, thought that it would be a good idea to instill education in your children, so they did encourage me. I was a part of a nursing program, but then I fell in love, and getting married was more important than getting nursing. And back then, being handicapped a little, and I don't really consider myself handicapped, but many people do. Being handicapped was not something that they really wanted to deal with in the nursing program. Actually, they told me, and this is what threw me, because my parents never would have allowed or never said anything like this. The supervisor came up to me, and we were in a nursing home, and she said, "What if Mr. So-and-so fell? How are you going to pick him up? You won't be able to." And he was about a 300-pound man, and I'm not a small woman. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, well, all my muscles in my legs, I have to bend down correctly, and I'll have help. And she said, well, that's not good enough, because you won't be able to do it. And I'm thinking, the lady over there that's in the same program is 90 pounds. How is she going to pick that 300-pound man up? So I was very discouraged at that point, and of course I was in love, so I decided, they don't need me. And of course I started having my own children. I had 6 children, one has passed away. I have 6 grandchildren. And so I am a grandma, and my grandchildren are in their teenagers, so I'm an old grandmother, I guess you could call it. But it's a blessing to have family, and it's a blessing to know that I will have more grandchildren. I have younger sons who don't have any children yet, and it's important to me, and I'm really looking forward to it. I also have my youngest son who is not married yet, and he's saying, well, Mom, really, I really would like you to find me a wife. Now, I'm not sure if you know, but in Islam, a lot of times it's more of a courtship. And some of you in here will know what I'm talking about. Where you get to know somebody in a public place, and you get to like them, and you build around their family and them. So he is expecting to have, because I am a Muslim, and he is a Muslim, that he wants to go through the way Muslims do it. So he won't date. I mean, not by himself. He'll have open relationships with people like in our community and stuff. So he is asking for me to find him a wife, which I have no idea how to do. I was born an American, yes, and he is American too, but I never went through this other than marrying my second husband. My second husband is a Muslim. So in my family, because my parents really had a very strong push for education, that's a big part of our family too. So my sons and my children are educated. My husband is educated. And my second husband told me, I actually went to McAllister College for my BA. So I'm a Minnesota college person. And I was in Minnesota and had my BA. And then my husband said, you're a teacher. So, and that was back when McAllister had a teaching degree. So I decided, I think I'll take time off. I have 2 babies now, and that's enough. I don't need to worry about college. He said, you should go and get your master's. And what I liked about that was that he's encouraging me, which it's the same thing as a family. So he encouraged me. We did move. They were asking me, how come I've been in so many Islamic schools? I did decide to become a principal and a teacher because I became Muslim and I wanted to teach in a religious school. The only way to do that would be to have an Islamic school. We started an Islamic school in my house 27 years ago in St. Paul over here by Harriet Island, up on the bluff. Did that because I did not want my two youngest sons to be in a public school system. I don't have anything against public school systems. There's some really good public schools. But I do think that people have a choice. And my choice was that I wanted to raise my children Muslim, and I wanted them to know their community and their religion. And the only way to really do that is to do a religious school. But I didn't have a religious school. There was no Islamic school in Minnesota. The weekend schools, but that's not what I wanted. So I was stressed out one whole summer, and my husband, he's a wise man. He said to me, "Why are you so stressed out? You're a teacher, just homeschool them." And I thought, yeah, why not? So I homeschooled my two boys, but then all of my friends decided, wait a minute, if you're homeschooling your kids, you're doing ours too. So the first year I had 12 students. The third year I had 29. And the second year, and the third year I had 54. And my son Omar was in kindergarten at the time at our house. And he wrote this really horrible note that said, "No admittance upon death." I said, "Omar, why would you write that note? That's horrible." And he goes, "Mama, you share everything." "Everything, Mama. Everything. We don't have a living room. We don't have a kitchen. We don't have a dining room. We only have our bedrooms, and I don't even have our bedroom." I go, "Omar, you have your bedroom. I don't have anything in your bedroom." All the other rooms were desks, blackboards, and teacher desks. And he goes, "Mama," he threw open the door, and there was one of the teacher's babies on his bed. I couldn't say anything because he was absolutely right. And I thought, you know what? There's too much stress on him as a child. So we went to Islamic Foundation and begged them for 3 classrooms. They gave it to us. They said, well, we've not had good experience with people coming in and renting over the week, so we're going to give you a 3-month trial, and after that, if we ask you to move, please move. So we were there 3 months, and they signed a 99-year lease with us. So it would be way beyond my time, but the school is set in that location at least, my lifetime, the rest of it. So it was kind of neat that they had enough faith in us. I have moved around a lot because I fix schools. I'm a principal because I like my fingers in the pot, and I realize in a classroom I only can control a little community of class children. And as a principal, I can make changes. So I was on the board for making a change to have accreditation for Islamic schools. I think Lutheran schools have that, Catholic schools and Jewish schools. And so about 8 years ago, we had a partnership with Advanced Ed, and we now, or have had for the last 5 years, Islamic school accreditation. So it's Islamic school environment. So it's been an amazing journey for me to see that happen. I fix schools. I'm really good on the ground level of a school that's in trouble. I'm a humanistic principal, and I'm really good with people. And I think that really helps as someone that has to go around and work at a school. I love children. I think that would be the biggest part that I will miss if I ever retire completely from school. I'm also a principal that's always taught a class. So every year of the years that I've been a principal, I have been a teacher also. So I do teach language arts, 6th grade. When I told my board I was retiring, they said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" And then they said, "We'll let you retire as a principal, but you have to still teach 6th grade." And I have no problem with that. I love kids, so that's a little bit about my story. I'm older, so I have a lot of story, but yeah. I will be a storyteller someday. I have so many amazing stories about schools and things that kids happen. So let me tell you one just quickly, and I'm almost finished. So I test all of the kindergarten students coming into the school. I've done that for years, not just in our school, but in every school. All of our schools that I've been in, we require students coming in to have a placement test from kindergarten through high school. So I give the kindergarten test. I just love interacting. So a parent will say, almost all parents will say, you know, they're shy. They probably won't talk to you. We're sorry in advance. It's not going to work. And then I say, well, I'm going to have your child here for 45 minutes. And they go, you're going to test him for 45 minutes? Oh my God, that's way too long for a kindergartner. I know that. But I figure there's some warm-up time. So I kind of trick the kids into talking to me and asking them questions and getting them comfortable. I would say probably 99% of the kids that they say are shy are not shy. And actually some will not be quiet. So it's kind of neat to see that. So I had one girl 2 years ago that came in, and her mother and father were, and I'm going to use the word Orthodox Muslims. They were very strict in their religion. It's the woman that covers the niqab, and she was all in black. She had quite a few kids. Her oldest was going into kindergarten. It was the oldest one, so they'd never had an experience with that before. The father had the long beard and the white, it looked like a white dress, or it's called a thobe. And, you know, they were very proper, gave me all the greetings and all of that we do in Islam. And they said, you know, our daughter's very shy. She's never been in school before. She only, you know, interacts in the community. But, you know, and that was the one that was apologizing to me about her shyness. And she was a little bit shy when she was around her parents. But they were going to come into my office. Well, the first rule is parents aren't in the office when I do the kindergarten test. If they can't come in and do the test, then they won't be ready, at least this time. So anyways, she comes in, sits down, and we talk a little bit. It didn't take more than like 2 sentences for her to just go and go and go and go. She just couldn't stop talking. And I'm thinking, this is not the child they described. And so I went along with it, and we got some testing done. She was very bright. And she said, you know what my dad told my mom? And I thought, do I say, tell me? Because I've had many experiences when that was probably not the right thing to say. And I said, no, I don't know. She goes, well, I'm going to tell you. And she goes, my mom is pregnant. Okay. So how many kids do you have? How many brothers and sisters do you have? And she told me she had already 6. She was just going into kindergarten. Do you know what my dad told my mom when he found out? No. If you have any more babies, honey, we're going to have to get a bus. And so this little girl was telling me that, you know, her dad was saying that they had so many kids that they'd have to get a bus. So I have so many cute little stories. How many people remember Art Linkletter? When he used to talk to like about 8 kids, and I have so many of those kinds of stories. Thank you for listening, and I need to stop because like I said, I could go all night.